Hello there, and welcome to Sith Happens, a Star Wars podcast. I am Eric the Dadalorian, and I want to thank you for joining us today. I am joined by two individuals today. One of them is my boy who couldn't blast his way out of Minok-infested worm. His idea of bedroom plate involves Star Wars action figures, and he's the Darth to my Tiefers. That's my boy Matty Ice.
I like to think of myself more as the Kylo to your Ren, which is foreshadowing for later.
Yes, it is.
Hi, I am to my handsome gentleman, Dadalorian, Matt. You can otherwise call me Black Series Daily Desk, where you can find me on Instagram to check out all of my cool photos. I've got an awesome story series going on now, and I'm going to promote myself because I'm very excited about it, and the only other person I can promote it to is Eric.
Absolutely, man. And definitely check his stuff out, guys. Some of the best action figure photos I've ever seen. And speaking of some social media posts, we got a great friend of mine here joining us today on the show. We are joined by my friend. He is a fellow Star Wars enthusiast. He's the cosplay extraordinaire, and he has more lightsabers than General Grievous. Welcome, my buddy, Jimmy K. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Jimmy.
Not too bad. Huh?
Jimmy!
Oh, no. Yeah, no, man. Thank you for joining us on the show today. We're super excited to get you on, especially after coming up what we're going to be going into today. But, before we get too much into what we're going to talk about for the show today, man, what we like to do when we start these podcasts, especially with somebody new, which, by the way, twinning with my boy Jimmy here.
I don't have the shoulders for that.
Always two there are, no more, no less.
Yeah. More foreshadowing.
You guys haven't existed for thousands of years. No,
exactly.
Not that you know.
Cue the toxic comment section.
But what we like to do for you, brother, is like what we do for everybody who comes on the show, is just kind of like give us a little bit of info, man. Like kind of just, give us your background. This is really, we're all big into Star Wars, obviously. That's why we do this show. So like what got you into Star Wars and like kind of what are you doing with it now?
So I got into Star Wars very early on. As a kid, both my parents promoted it. I went to the special editions in theaters. I had, the typical gold VHS case. That was like the treasure.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, I got that.
Oh my god, I think I still have that somewhere.
Wait, I got something for you right here. Look what I found on my parents.
Yeah?
OG VHS, no special edition THX remastered. I looked what it's worth. $3.50.
Yeah, they aren't what you think.
Yeah,
I do have the DVD. There was that random DVD collection with all 6 movies that had that was like, for special features, here's the original theatrical cut of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I do have that.
I didn't know that existed. I need to get that. Anyway, sorry, go on, tell your story.
Matt likes to get sidetracked a little bit.
I mean, you got to have the Jar Jar to the Qui-Gon, right? I mean, that's how
And Eric is the Jar Jar. Go on. Yeah.
I will put my jar in your ass.
You're a Binks.
Binks?
Yeah. You son of a Binks.
There's the name of the episode right there.
Boom.
There it is.
We got it.
All right, but Jimmy, go ahead, bro.
So I always love movies. I'm a filmmaker by trade, and when it comes to just creating worlds, the thing is with Star Wars as a fandom is it's the only real fandom that started as a movie. Everything else is based off a comic, a novel. Don't get me wrong, Star Wars is based off other pieces of things.
Yeah.
But it's not the thing itself. So for me as a filmmaker, there's like a special home there for me. And as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that the reason why my parents pushed it so much was because of my mom. And as a birthday present years ago, we went to Star Wars Celebration Anaheim, so she was the first person to go with me to Celebration. We did the Star Cruiser. We did it twice, actually.
Nice.
We love all Star Wars. I cosplayed for all of the sequel trilogy re-releases, and then I always liked different content creators. I was always watching people, and then, as a filmmaker, I was like, I kind of want to try this, so I kind of really tried the end of last year, and I've just kind of loved it, and I love I love the fact that I get to honor the fandom that's given me so much by creating my own things in it. And
love it.
dude. I've watched your stuff for a while now because you and I have probably known each other for the better part, I think, of a year now, more or less. Because we did that big Star Wars is for Everybody project back a while back, man. And it was great. It was a great community type of thing, man. And I love what you do on your page. Some of the best cosplays I've ever seen, honestly.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, for sure, brother. So, but yeah, so tell us, what is your podcast, or not podcast, your social media's tag so people can go check you out?
So, does my name actually show up on it? Because my name's right there.
Jimmy K underscore Foe.
It won't show up in the recording, but I will put it in there.
Okay.
I know who you are.
So,
just tell us anyways.
All right, so this will be very Anchorman-esque because I think I'm going to point to something and that's not where it's going to pop up. I'm going to point here like it's here. So my user handle is Jimmy K underscore FOE. I have that on Instagram and TikTok. Both of those are the same. You can actually use that to search my Facebook, actually. I believe you can use that. You can email me at jimmyk_FOE@gmail.com if you have any questions. Instagram, TikTok. I do have a YouTube page which I'm starting to build with the same channel, because I also have a company page. My company Final Entertainment has a YouTube channel that has my commercial, shorts, and feature work, but I'm going to start making my content YouTube, which is also the same thing, and then they're going to start intertwining, because I don't know how this has happened, but within the past 2 or 3 months, I've gotten jobs because of my cosplay content.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
I just got invited to a con. It's 11 months from now, but I got invited to a con because I did a job there, and they researched me and they go, "Oh, you do cosplay stuff? You should come to our con and cosplay. We should invite you as a guest." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So having this weird synergy. So if there's a time where everything seems kind of twisted, that's because it is. And eventually, at some point, everything will be this fine parallel line of this dyad of how I work. So until then, everybody could just enjoy the shit show. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. The best I've ever gotten. The best I've ever gotten is Eric asking me to do this podcast, which I do for free.
I don't even know for free. We put money into this.
I was gonna say
it's the opposite of free, actually.
Yeah, we're definitely not in the black.
As an independent filmmaker, that's how everything is. How much did you make? Negative.
Yeah.
What does exposure cost?
Yeah. All right. But Jimmy, brother, thank you so much for some insight onto you, man. Especially for joining us today as we get into an amazing episode. So for those of you joining us potentially for the first time, what we do is we film these episodes after we all watch the episode of The Acolyte, which last night was episode 5 of The Acolyte. So if you are joining us right now and you have not seen it, this is your spoiler warning. That being said, last night was insane, and I know my boy Matt already said he had something he wanted to kick it off with. So Matt, go ahead, man.
I have a confession, gentlemen. Now,
okay.
Eric and I have talked repeatedly about toxic fandom and people jumping to conclusions about canon. And last night's episode was a lot to take in. And Eric and I were texting when we were watching it, and I was like, I have a huge gripe. I would love this episode, but I hate this. And I immediately launched into a not canon thing. And it was that I didn't realize that the lightsabers were hitting his armor. I thought he was cutting the lightsabers, and they were somehow still working. And I was utterly fuming butthurt about this. It was taking me out of the episode. And then I go to Eric, that's my gripe. And Eric goes, it was cortosis. And I went back and looked, and I was like, I've never felt so ashamed in my entire life. I'm the king of let it roll, you and I, and I'm sitting here
I'm gonna have a confession of my own here in that case then, because I knew about it, but I completely spaced out of my mind about it, because I did after the episode last night. My buddy Gianni on Instagram, you can see him at IamGianniV. He invited me to do his live, and we're talking about it. And somebody actually mentioned in the comments on the live, that metal was cortosis. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I looked it up, and it was the same metal that the blade from that Vader comic was. And I was like, that's what it is.
Okay. Null blade.
Yep,
Yep,
the
yep.
null
When you
blade.
said that to me, the minute you said it, I was like, and I know Cartosis from old canon.
Yeah,
I have a really good friend who's very Legends focused. He's not a hater of Disney. And when The
Right.
Mandalorian came out, they started talking about Beskar and things like that. He was like, "What about Cortosis? I know Beskar," but and it's so funny. So like, it became this thing that he was always annoyed about. So now, when you said that, I was like, "Oh, god damn it!" It's like,
yeah. Hey, listen, brother. We all have our moments. Okay, you
yeah,
can chill
just
out, honey. It's
I
okay.
won't, I
So,
won't go to fear leads to hate.
It's so funny that that's how you guys thought, because the first thing that I thought of was like, oh, maybe lightsaber technology in the next 100 years is just going to change. Like maybe the hilt.
Could you
So
imagine?
I was like,
imagine
oh,
that-
okay, like that would just simply explain. It's like, oh, this guy like understands how Jedi lightsabers work. He knows how to fix it. And then what happens before the Phantom Menace? They're like, oh, lightsabers. Now we must evolve the construction of lightsabers to not have that issue. And it's like, oh, okay, that's
So-
fine.
Could you
The reason I
imagine
didn't-
if they used to be like flashlights, like you like ignited your lightsaber and it stopped, and you were like,
The
and it
only
was like,
reason
oh, good.
I didn't think that. The only reason I didn't think that was because if you think back to the line from A New Hope with Obi-Wan Kenobi, he mentions, a civilized weapon from an ancient age or whatever it was, talking about how they've been around for like thousands of years and everything like that. But yeah, and then like I when I was watching it, because like it kind of I rewound it a few times just to double check.
Yep.
I saw it like where he used his helmet and his bracers as weapons basically, or a shield, and it short them out, and I was like, there's something with that. I gotta find out what that is. So
Yeah, I was so
But,
excited to just
yeah.
say this sentence to you guys if we're talking about the episode, and like I took notes tonight because I watched it again after Eric told me that last night, and then my wife last night was sick. That was part of why I couldn't do the cast last night. So she watched it with me, and she's a saint because I was in the room like yelling when I was watching this in the other room. But literally, my note is headbutting fucking lightsabers. Like, can we talk about how nobody ever thought that sentence would be a thing? Like, he's
No.
straight up headbutting lightsabers.
Yes.
Like, that was the most badass shit I've ever seen in my entire life. I just want to get a super cut of that. I hope he does it more.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where it goes, but like we gotta just go like
Inflow.
fucking second by second with this episode, to tell you the truth, because there was
Right.
so much in this episode and I was just mind blown by this. So let's just it opens right from the last episode, which and it did a slow open, right, where Osha was on the ground, knocked out, and I was because like I really wondered how it would come into this episode, and it didn't do that. Just bam right into it. It did that slow build. She's knocked out. You hear the lightsabers clashing in the background, and then you see the stranger just bodying fucking Jedi, just
Right.
bodying them.
Yeah.
Like it was like an 8v1, and this dude was just wrecking shop, man.
So I just want to say this because it's so funny. It was my theory last night when you and I were texting, Eric, and then it's been on the internet. The exact open. You and I talk about music movements and missing them in these shows a lot. The
Mhm.
exact music movement that was used when the episode opened was Kylo Ren's theme. Da,
Yes.
da, da, da. And I didn't put it together till like the second time I watched. But like, I think there's a lot we can talk about there with this character.
Yeah.
But just something I wanted to make sure, because I have a list of references that I took from this episode to other content. And I also think it was a great way to open it because it actually, we've said that it feels, I'm so excited my earbuds are popping out. We've said it, a lot of us has felt very prequel. This episode felt like the great aspects of the sequels to me, with the lightsaber fighting and the lights. And yeah, exactly. And I think that's an interesting movement.
It was amazing in every aspect, in my opinion. Like the whole way it opened up, the very creepy vibe behind it, and the way that they did the fighting itself. Like I'll never forget the move of just stab through one, pull the other, human shish kebab. Now, that was insane. But it was.
No, you watch some of these moves and you just kind of go like, wait, where was it? Like, why did this never happen before? Not because you're just like, wait a minute, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and
it really was.
Yeah, and I like Jord said it later, but I think we all kind of knew. Like, these guys all essentially know how to lightsaber fight from Taekwondo class, and they've only fought people who don't have lightsabers. So this is like taking Taekwondo to a street fight, and that's like what Jord was saying. He doesn't follow the rules of combat. And I think, the reason why we haven't seen a lot of these things is because we don't really know what he's studying. But if you think about last week when he floats down from the back, this man is an absolute drama queen. Like, he has read so many books, and this is his coming out party. So, like, thinking exactly, like, I was like, why have we seen that move? I think a lot of this stuff is like a dude who's finally hitting his stride in something and able to show it off. It's, when, like, what is it? Like, success is when, preparation meets opportunity. Like, this is the moment, and he is just pulling out every fucking stop that he has to do.
It was, dude, like, he was just wrecking shop up in there. Like, he basically just knocked out all the no-name Jedi within, like, the first, like, couple of seconds, basically. And then it turns into where Osha shoots him with a little freaking stun gun, and he just looks at her like, bitch. And then he starts going to her, and that's when Soul kind of comes in and saves her ass. And then Soul in his fight, bro, awesome. Amazing fight. JJ, the guy from Squid Games, absolutely amazing. Still my favorite character within this so far.
Oh yeah,
my favorite character is dead. But okay, let's go.
Yeah. But going directly, yeah. No,
thinking of is probably the character that was. I was like, oh yeah, this person, and now I'm like,
I thought she was gonna live. My wife, she was like, my wife loves Star Wars, and she was in the other room. And when it happened, we'll get to it. I went, no, like literally like that. And my wife was like, what happened? Just tell me.
We're gonna get to that because that was that. I think that right there was
just a couple of kids in a candy store here. Go on, sorry, you're railing him.
No, dude, listen, you're fine. This is what we're here to talk about. But like, it was some of the best fighting I think we've seen in lightsaber fights we've seen in Star Wars in probably over 15 years, in my opinion, since the Anakin Obi-Wan fight. To be realistic, like it was just amazing choreography. The visually super pleasing, the dark atmosphere, and the lightsabers basically being the only light. It was such an amazing thing to watch. Honestly, like I said, I personally think it was the best lightsaber fight since Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyways, getting into the next piece. So we saw, and this, I guess this is kind of like my little bit of a gripe with it here. We get into the May and Jeki fight right after that. And this is like, I don't know what May is doing. It seems like she keeps bouncing back and forth on what she's gonna do. Oh, I'm gonna turn myself into the Jedi. Now it's like, oh no, fuck it, I'm gonna try to kill him. Like that might be my one gripe. Is like, I want to know what this person's play is and what she's trying to do per se. And it just seems to be bouncing around a little bit. So how do you guys feel about that?
Well, I have a theory that. Because for me personally, the reveal as to who the villain was like a little bit of a letdown, only because it was the easiest choice. The easiest choice to say who was.
I don't disagree.
Was like that guy. It was like, okay, like yeah, it could be like he would make the most sense, but like, I was a big fan. I always thought it would be a witch.
Yeah. I think we had talked about that a lot between myself and Matt, actually.
So I am going to beg to differ, but Jimmy, you finish your point, and then we'll go.
So what I think is the reason why that reveal is not as big is because the big reveal is the why. It's not the who, it's the why.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is somehow connected to the witches. I don't know how.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you.
And that's why he was able to float, because everybody freaked out like, oh, there's a Sith. I'm like, I don't know. Sith don't float. That's like a witch thing.
Well...
Yeah, actually, there's Venomous.
This might still come into play. This might still come into play.
But here's where. So, and that's why he says one might call me a Sith, because I don't believe he is one. I don't either. I believe that he may want to be one, but he isn't one.
I'm with you.
I've read some theories that he's going to lead to the Knights of Ren, which would make sense.
That's my theory. Yep.
Dark Force users. But I think the connection is going to be more so that because of his connection to the witches, he's able to utilize different techniques on May, right? Is it May or Mai?
May.
It is May. Okay. So the thing is that she doesn't know how to have any form of allegiance because of that. I think she's somewhat brainwashed at some point. It may not be like a full throttle thing, but it's like, that almost kind of how Snoke does with Kylo,
Yeah.
something like that. And I think
Yeah.
because of that, that's why she just is so all over the place with her choices, because she doesn't know what to do at this point. Because she's like, well, if I turn myself into a Jedi, but I don't really think they're going to be that good to me because I did kill 2 of them. But at the same time, the Jedi aren't supposed to kill first, but I have a gripe with the Jedi. And I also, did anybody else see this on Twitter? The theory about Soul and the bad guy. What's the bad guy's name? I can't remember.
Chimera. Yeah, Chimera.
There's a theory, apparently, I think his name, I'll have to look for the meme, but I think his name actually means moon. And then it's Soul. And there's like a theory that they could be potentially related. And that's why he's there.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I was like, maybe not necessarily that.
Well, the dialogue supported that because Kyber's dialogue showed that there is history there.
But what if, because they show that in episode 4 or 2, they have the Padawan stay on the ship. What if they keep talking about there was 4 Jedi, but what if there was a 5th? What if those 4 Jedi that were going there, somebody had a Padawan, and the Padawan kills everybody? They just go nuts. Could be. And then that's the thing is, because Soul doesn't do anything about it, that's why they all regret it. Because they all knew that this Padawan. So it's kind of like the opposite of what happens in Last Jedi with Luke and Kylo, where Luke considers, I'm going to kill Ben. This is the exact opposite. Easy. And then the guy like does it, and they all feel like the sense of guilt because that's been one of my gripe with the first like three episodes was like, why is there a Jedi that like doesn't mind committing suicide? Because don't get me wrong, like I understand like, they take kids away from their families and things like that, but like, what would, even if they got into a fight with the witches, what would happen that would make them go, yeah, no, I screwed up everything. I
kind of wondered the same thing, honestly, when Torben drank the poison.
They brought a Padawan that was like the first Padawan to show a sense of dark side. And all 4 of them screwed up. And it resulted in death. That's where I'm like, that would make sense. And that would be why Soul's kind of like, I screwed up because I was literally trying to help this kid and I screwed up.
Yeah, so to just counter, I'm with you on some of that. I think that, first of all, I understand what everybody's saying about the reveal. I read a great interview with Leslie Hyland about, and I agree with it, that like I was at first like, it's going to be him, whatever. She was like, I never intended to make it a mystery. I intended, the idea is that it's, that you're giving people enough, but it's how they reveal it. And the way they reveal it is him killing Jackie and they pull out and it's him. The way they revealed him, this ultimate evil, is he killed arguably the most likable character, my favorite character in the show, right?
And so arguably the greatest lightsaber fight in the last 15 years.
So igniting it from the side. So that's like the one thing right there. Like to me, I think it worked. I think from what you're saying, I'm all on board with the Knights of Ren. You look at the armor, you look at all that. Actually, the second and third time I watched it, when he was like, what's your name or who are you? I think it would have been awesome and everybody would have freaked out if he went Ren. But I'm not going to, that's my fan fiction, it would have been cool. I think 2 things. I think what May is trying to do is survive. So she's not near him. She wants to turn herself into the Jedi. Goes there. Kelnaka's dead. Situation's fucked. Her plan is fucked. Right? So now he's there. What's my next step? I'm going to try to kill the Jedi, and I won't ever tell him that I was going to turn in order to survive. Then she realizes it's him, and now she's SOL, not Soul. Shit out of luck. But so now she's and I think that a lot of what he's talking about, you don't remember me. I really think Torben. I think the Jedi killed those witches, all those Jedi. I don't know if he was there. I think he in some way witnessed it, or was like a party to something that went on. And the reason why Torben killed himself, and Soul's haunted, and they're all so dark about it, and they're almost trying to cover this up, like Vernestra and everything. Something happened. The Jedi don't even want the High Council to know. There's like 8 people that know this happened. They're like, let's just make up a story and leave it out. And I think that Soul, even at the end of the episode, through all of this, he is completely unraveled. There is far more to what's going on with Soul than even what happened with the witches. He's fought some kind of darkness in him. Maybe that guy wasn't his Padawan when he was really young. That was like a little kid that had the Force, and Soul was doing some dark shit before the Jedi found him. I think you're going to learn a lot from Soul in all of this, that he is not the Jedi that you expected him to be.
Yeah.
And that essentially, that's why he's so unraveled at the end.
Yeah. Well, while we're on this topic of Chimera and everything, though, before we start talking about Soul, let's just say Manny Jacinto absolutely killed it. Like, that was amazing acting on his part.
Mm-hmm.
That
It
was
was.
amazing. He killed it as Chimera. Honestly, like, it gave it such a good creepy vibe, and could not have played it any better, in my opinion. Honestly,
I legitimately, this is like, because he played the other role so well. That was
that's
also,
what I'm talking about.
I'm
Yeah.
like, not only that, I know this sounds terrible, but part of me was sitting there as he was fighting, and I'm like, there's no way it can be him, right? He's not that jacked underneath all the
Dude, he was ripped.
Right? And then when he showed, I'm like, damn, he's been packing heat this whole time. I legitimately did not realize that guy was packing heat like that. Like that, I felt like the wardrobe should just win awards just to be able to hide the fact that that guy was an absolute muscle machine the whole time.
Yeah, no lie. His costume was amazing too. Like, even after the helmet came off and everything,
Yeah,
just that, like, the sleeveless tunic and the like long black, like, holy shit.
Every aspect of him was actually perfect. Like, I sat there and was in complete awe of like a perfect character. I couldn't believe it.
And he just had like a different presence about him after that too. It's like, like you said, he started off, as like the quirky little, like, I don't even know what you would really call him and everything, but then you just open that and you see like a darkness on this dude and just portrayed it perfectly.
Yeah,
maybe he'll be the first one with like dual personality disorder and like,
because
he played like the bitchy little henchman that like will do anything for the bad guy, and that's what I thought he was, and that's what I thought. I thought that was going to be the reveal. I thought like I honestly thought the episode was going to start like, let's just say like 10 minutes before the red lightsaber is like there in the woods, and it was going to be him killing that guy to be like, yeah, no, that's not who it is, and then keep going. Obviously, that's not what they did.
Yeah.
Like he played two parts. Maybe that'll be the thing. Unless they're gonna be totally crazy and we're gonna learn that there's twins. I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think that would be totally
I don't think so.
But
see, I thought he was gonna lose to Soul, and then the Master was gonna show up. Like, that was my thought. That, like, like all of a sudden, like, instead at the beginning, like, he was gonna lose, and then you're gonna find out there's a greater threat, kind of thing.
Oh, I actually have a theory
that's gonna happen.
I do have a theory about that, actually, because I don't remember what I read, but they were talking about the different layers of like Sith. There was like Acolyte something, then the Sith Padawan, and then the Sith Master. And we see that in Clone Wars to a certain degree. Like, Grievous is there. Grievous is something. I don't know what you'd want to call him, but he like kind of counts to a certain degree. So I wonder if what's going to happen is we're going to learn that Plagueis had a plan, like an overarching plan, almost like to like have like an army of Dark Force users, but like Palpatine like makes that all go to crap, and then Palpatine's like, wait, but this whole concept of this bigger laid out plan is actually really brilliant, and that like starts his whole like, oh, what if I was do all that stuff. So I do agree with you. I do think there is something, and there's something with him with a bigger plan. I do think.
In old canon, Tenebris had it was another Bith named Darth Venomous, who he pitted against Plagueis. So, and that character knew how to levitate. He was a master of poison. He was kind of a ne'er-do-well. So, a part of me wonders if this is a parallel to Darth Venomous.
That's what I'm thinking, honestly.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. But same theory, Jimmy, just like slightly a little different.
And he does the whole poison thing and stuff, too. That's right.
And I think the thing with Plagueis is, like, I don't know what the Mun species like ages are and everything, but I think it's 100 years before the Phantom Menace. I think it's too early for Plagueis to be involved at this point. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's too early for him at this point, but it could be wrong. We might see something at the very end.
Although this is the earliest now that we've seen Force healing.
Yeah, I was thinking that again. Sequels. I just told you, felt like the sequels. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah.
Which is good, because I think with the now like hatred of the sequels, which, don't get me wrong, there was a problem with the sequels as they were releasing, but I feel like it's just increased for some reason. Like, it's not aging well right currently. I feel like that's like a nice sort of bridge to be like, hey, like, it wasn't that it wasn't here, but like, you're not gonna stop death, but then we're gonna find that the Sith do that, the Jedi don't do that, There's just different ways that they deal with each other. I actually have a saber teacher, and who's very deep into the lore and things like that. And one of the things we talk about is the different fighting styles between the Jedi and the Sith. Jedi always play defense. The Jedi should always lose to the Sith because of what's the dude with the dreads name?
Yord.
What Yord said. This guy doesn't play by any rules. We don't know how to fight this.
Yeah.
Which is true. Like if you look at like how the Jedi are, which makes Obi-Wan a much better Jedi than he was.
Yeah.
In all instances, the Sith should always win.
Yeah.
Because it's about playing with the rules and not playing with the rules.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what I was saying. It's, taking karate class to a gunfight. It's really what just happened.
No lie. I mean, use the forbidden saber technique, which for those of you who don't know what it is, that's where you're turning your lightsaber on and off during a fight to actually win the fight. So and that's part of the reason why I don't think this guy was actually like a full-fledged Sith, because there was kind of like a handshake agreement, so to say, between Sith and Jedi throughout the millennia, basically, where they would never use this type of lightsaber technique on each other. So it was kind of interesting the way they brought that in. I thought it was really cool to see it, to tell you the truth, because I think that
probably was one of the best kills I've seen in a long time.
No lie. My girl Jackie, I feel bad for her though. That was brutal.
I rewatched it now twice, and both times it absolutely ruined me, and it killed me. And I think that from what you guys are saying, I don't even know that he is a master. There's a little part of me that I really think this is the beginning of the Knights of Ren. And I think this is a guy who has this dark power. Maybe he was with the witches. They know a lot about the Force. Maybe he was adjacent to them with another sect. He has taught himself all of these things. He's the beginning of the Knights of Ren. And the Emperor always viewed the Knights of Ren, as we know them from the comic book starting, around Empire Strikes Back to later on, as low-level Force users. The Emperor didn't even care about them. He was like, they're a biker gang that does jobs for people. They don't have that much in touch with the Force. They're really not a threat. Who cares? Let there be some dark side. And I think he might be the beginning of it, and maybe it gets diluted by then.
Okay.
But ultimately, he read the book on levitating, so he learned how to levitate. He read the book on the forbidden art, so he learned how to do that. What's cortosis? I'm going to find that metal and forge this crazy, scary mask. He's sort of this makeshift dude, and that really plays into the Kylo Ren theme to me. Not even if he's not a Knight of Ren, but Kylo Ren is a fanboy. And ultimately, this guy might be a Sith fanboy. And that actually, to me, is a lot more interesting, because ultimately, when we talk about there hasn't been a Sith for 1,000 years, it's not a Sith. He said, what I am is what you would call Sith, not I am a Sith. So ultimately, that could play into the whole thing. Like, is it a cover-up? There's a little part of me that doesn't even think Soul makes it back to Coruscant. There's a part of me that thinks none of this gets resolved, and it's like it's not recorded because there's nobody to fucking tell the tale.
He dropped that line already. It said, now that you've seen me, I have to kill you all. So he's not going to stop where he's at.
That would also be a quick way to solve it, would be that he kills everybody that saw him, and then there's no proof of it. But I think A, that would be too easy, and B, if I remember correctly, the week before the Acolyte released, Disney greenlit season 2.
So it's not a limited series now.
No,
I thought it was a limited series. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Tell me more.
Given some of the backlash it got, I don't know. We'll see.
Me personally, I think Disney figured out after The Last Jedi that backlash they can benefit off of, and that's why
it's the most watched show in Disney Plus history right now.
Well, that's the thing is, for everybody that hates this, you're giving them fucking views. Keep going, guys. Keep making people like the three of us upset. As long as
seriously, we're loving this shit. This is awesome. I loved it.
We're eating their ad model right now.
Disney promoted every single one of those Jedi, not because they would survive the series and we were supposed to love them, but literally to piss people off. That's
100%. Yeah. And I think that, when we talk about it like this, I work in the ad industry, so this is probably a little inside baseball, but ultimately where Disney makes their money is not subscribers. They make their money on people putting ads on the shows for people that don't have Disney Plus premium. So ultimately, every time somebody that hate watches it, that doesn't have Disney without ads, what they're essentially doing is allowing Disney to serve an ad that they then charge an advertiser for. So if it's the most watched show in Disney history and you hate it, Disney's like, fuck you, we're going to keep making money off this. They don't care.
Oh, God. Not only that, the people that support it so much that they're buying Acolyte stuff.
Exactly.
They're making more money. I think it's a sense of, not only that, I also have a theory that one of the things that in Ahsoka season 2 that Shin and Balin are going to do is they're going to help make the First Order. So I think Balin's job is going to be Snoke.
Interesting.
And I think Shin found it or refines the Knights of Ren. I think those people might be like you're saying, almost like the Emperor gets rid of them and then they have to have a resurgence. This would link all of that together with Ahsoka season 2.
Yeah.
Means Acolyte season 2 has to exist now just for that. And I think it's going to just keep playing like that. I think that's why Disney for the Rey movie hired the woman that they hired, because the first thing she said was, "Oh, I'm going to make this uncomfortable for men," and everybody freaked out. And I'm like, no, she literally said all the toxic masculinity are not going to like this movie. And she
exactly.
Movie, which is going to
believe me, there's plenty of that shit going around right now.
Which most
I was attacked like a son of a bitch on Star Wars' Instagram last night. Let me tell you,
like we're just gonna be like, oh, okay, like we're just gonna go watch it, and that's gonna be the thing. And Disney's just using that to promote it, and honestly, it's kind of like beautiful because they're like, oh, if there's gonna be toxicity, we're gonna make a shit ton of money off this stuff, and I think it's working perfectly.
Yeah, and it's honestly, we're so ingrained in this that we think of this in terms of like, oh, the fan base is turned against them. We are a minority. You know how many people how many 12-year-old kids are watching this and loving living?
I just want to point out the irony of you saying we're a minority as 3 white guys.
No, I mean Star Wars fans are in the minority of watchers, like hardcore Star Wars fans. There's not that many of us, but yes, you're right. But I'm saying, like, ultimately,
pointed out.
Good call. Two of us are in wife beaters, by the way. It's the 3 whitest dudes. I'm wearing a black. Yeah. So anyway, so what I'm saying is ultimately that there are so many. Think about the prequels, and the minute those kids became internet age, as you get into the Clone Wars cartoon ending and the sequels coming out, there is a whole wide fan base of millions of kids that are not on action figure pages talking about it, that are not on Instagram doing cosplay or running photo pages. Like, this community is big, but it's small in the scheme of things. So to Disney, it's not even fueling it. Those people are hate watching, and I get what you're saying, Jimmy, and I think there is definitely a little bit of that. But I think it's also, they don't give a shit. They are literally grooming fans that are 11 years old to like this when they're our age and making more and more of them because there's more content to ingest, which is their goal. It's to expose people to Star Wars and make them love it. Just because it's not somebody that's 45 years old in a basement that's obsessed with Legends Star Wars does not mean it's not Star Wars. And it is Star Wars to these kids. And I think that's what we all forget. And I have to remind myself when I get down, like, there's more of us than there are of them. If you want to go with the sequels, like you're not alone and scared, and that's really it, is that keep liking it. There's going to be another thing, just like the prequels, where there's the surgence of fans that like the sequels that have read. I actually like the sequels. There's a lot wrong with them, but I like them. Yeah, I enjoy them. And my favorite movies actually might be The Force Awakens. We've talked about this a bunch of times for many reasons.
Yeah. Force Awakens is one of my favorite movie theater experiences I've ever had.
Oh,
I got the only one. I'll be honest with you. The only one I really can't do is just I'm not a fan of The Last Jedi at all, and then just the somehow Palpatine return line. Those are the only 2 things I can't do.
We can't derail, but somehow Palpatine return line, people being mad at that, I'm sorry, Eric, I love you, is utter bullshit. The original Star Wars comic that came out was Dark Empire and Emperor Palpatine.
I know. Listen, I know he comes back. I know he comes back. I would have liked to seen more of how he came back.
You're gonna get those answered. What do you think the Dave Filoni movie is gonna be about?
Oh yeah, well, absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I think
watch Bad Batch. It's exactly. Yeah.
I know he comes back. Like no shit. I read Heir to the Empire.
In some capacity, the Acolyte will mention something that'll say something about it.
100%. That's what they're doing. It's a shared idea. 100%.
Which, if you really think about it,
I would have just liked it done a different way. That's all I'm saying. But we're derailing right now.
That's fair.
All right. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Anyways, I will say one thing about this episode that I was just not the biggest fan of. I thought the way Osha stopped Kybir was semi-anticlimactic. The moss picking them up and stuff. Like I get why, but I think like there's more of a story to go per se. I would like something more like bam to end the fight, I think.
I liked it. I mean, I don't have much to say about it, but I liked it. Like, I don't have
Yeah,
I
I
won't knock you for it. I won't knock you for it.
I
I'm
feel
just
like
thinking.
it was better than him just like letting them live. I
No,
think
that's
Yeah.
valid.
Yeah,
that's
or them just
basically what it was. Because I feel like that happens. I'm currently, so I'm going to Star Wars Celebration, so I'm trying to rewatch all of Star Wars, but in its like actual order. So I'm in the middle of the Clone Wars, and there's just like episodes sometimes where you're just kind of like, they just kind of let people live. Like if they just didn't
Yeah.
do that, you know how much stuff would be solved. This was like at least like okay, like there were just too many bugs for him to kill right away. That's why he's basically
Yeah.
like unscathed.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, okay. And he goes back to the whole he taught himself thing. He's too raw. It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, it just took him a
Yeah.
second. Oh, okay. That's
never saw that coming. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not that, believe me, it's not the strongest thing. So Eric, I agree with you. It's like it's a little weak, but it's forgivable.
It's not even bad in my opinion. It was just like, I thought there was going to be something bigger, like a bigger pow type thing that finishes off the fight.
Right. The other thing I think what people forget is that this is also a TV show that even with the budget, there are going to be things that they cut around and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
like Giannis or however you say his name, he even said like, like people have to remember like there was like a budget, like even regardless of the budget, like, just having the suit and stuff like that all costs like a lot of money and things like that. And TV budgets, even if they're bigger, are not the same thing. Like,
No.
like
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, no matter how good they are and how great they are on TV, they still don't match movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem is a lot of Star Wars fans forget that. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
why is it just like the movies? And I'm like, because it's a TV show. Like,
Yeah.
there is going to be a little something. Although they did a good job they're doing a great job with the fight sequences. The fight sequences are better, or like they're almost John Wick level. They're getting
It was top
They're
notch.
really good. Yeah. 100%. Cool.
Anyway, so to finish off the episode, we saw May disguising herself as Osha, and then Chimera healing Osha. I think we know that Chimera. No, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but I'm pretty sure we know Chimera realizes it's Osha. But the whole thing with May going with Soul now, I'm like, what is this motherfucker about to do?
I don't think that Soul knows, but the reason I don't think Soul knows is because
Soul doesn't know.
Yeah, he's completely unraveled right now.
Yeah,
dark stuff from his past is coming back. He left the bodies there, like his apprentice. And by the way, great line. She was a child. You brought her here. Like that's who the Jedi are. It's child soldiers. We're getting into that, but he's just completely unraveled. And I think you could see it in his face. You could see it when he got up and left. He's got to regroup. And I think next, I mean, first of all, if Basil dies or Baser, I'm going to fucking freak out. That haunts me at night. Yeah, he's so cute. But I love that guy. But he's going to point it out. And I love that Pip didn't die either because I'm a Pip fan. But yes. I think he's just so unraveled. And I think that's where it's at.
No doubt.
But he's still not, he's unraveled, but he is enough. He does hesitate when May offers her hand. He does hesitate, like he does know something's up.
Yeah, he's just
I agree with you.
Not calibrated.
I don't think he necessarily knows, but he knows something's up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like he doesn't have the sense like he used to, like he would to know, but he'll figure it out quick when he gathers his kind of brain. Right now, he's
basically walking around in shell shock right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Which also goes back to why Osha wasn't killed. If that was May, I'm 99% sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's like, I can turn her by telling her the lie. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. That's a valid point. And I mean, I'll say this much, that wrapped up the episode for this week. And that was, a very cliffhanging to see where it goes next. Cause I don't know. Like, like most of the episodes we've seen, we know where it's going to go next, or we can speculate. I got no freaking idea at this point.
I have what I said at this point, and then that's what I got for sure.
Yeah.
Do we rate it?
Yeah, we'll rate it. I'm straight up, man. 10 out of 10, easy.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll go with a 10 out of 10. Yep.
That was.
I think that might be our first 10 out of 10, or one of our first 10 out of 10s. On the
we haven't had many. I think the only other one that we had for 10 out of 10 was Bad Batch, and it was the Ventress episode. I think that was the one we did. Yeah.
I think with this one, I think the thing is one. I don't even think a TV show in general has ever done, because I was reading comments, like director was talking about how basically everybody questioned the writing of this episode because it's basically like a 3-minute fight. and she was like, "Nah, this will work," and that's never happened before. Because even going back to Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones is the easiest one to go back to. How many fight sequences were there? Every single one of them had at least 20 minutes of just talking.
This 100%.
Nope, we are going to get right to it. And
they had good dialogue in there with it, like
right.
The fight told a story. The fight told a story, and that's what was really good about it. Yeah.
The one scene that's going to stick from that episode the most to me is that one where it does the close up on the stranger's face as it's like getting chased through the woods.
It's like a horror movie, just kept going like this. Yeah,
and I think that's why I love the show so much so far. Is it's got a very horror vibe to it, and it was that will stick with me. That shit was so cool.
Yeah,
it had good dialogue with it. Is the thing. Like,
I think the dialogue was the strongest I've seen in the series. Like, I agree. There was not a wasted word, not a wasted breath. Everything was just pinpoint, perfect.
Yeah,
like I said, everything we saw from Manny Jacinto was top notch. So
that guy's great. It was great difference in the character too. All right.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right. So, but 10 out of 10s all around for Acolyte, which is, I think, the first time we've all agreed on something like that. Now, we are going to be doing something different this week. So, typically, after we do Acolyte, we do our Collector's Corner. But we are actually going to skip that this week because we had some other really big news in Star Wars come up. So we just got information out this week that there will be some familiar faces from Rogue One for season 2 of Andor. We got confirmation on Ben Mendelsohn reprising his role as Director Krennic. Now let's kind of shoot it here. Who do you guys think else we are going to see in season 2?
I have a wish. I want Draven, who was the guy who was running Spec Ops. He ordered the airstrike. He's the blonde guy who's Andor's boss. Who was back at the base, the tall dude.
Yes,
now I know who you're talking about.
He is awesome in the comics. After Rogue One, he develops this thing called the Vader Protocol, where they essentially try to train to hold Vader off for as long as they can. And his death is they need to get Leia to escape somewhere, and they hold Vader off for like 8 or 10 seconds. And Vader lifts him with his hand, so he's like floating on his back, and he goes, "We won. All we had to do was slow you down." And Vader goes, "My congratulations," and force crushes him, which is like the coolest fucking death. But then he came up with like the Vader protocol and everything. Like, he's a character that I think is sort of a cipher for Luthen. Like, he'll be a pre-Luthen, post-Luthen. And I'm really interested to see if his story comes in because, now that I've kind of mentioned him, if you go back, he's actually a pretty big part of a lot of what happens in Rogue One. So that's the character I'm like, we know K2SO is coming back. Now we know Krennic's coming back. That's a character that I want to see and hear more of. So that's mine.
That was going to be a big one. I said I think we're going to get introduced to in this season of Andor is like how they get K2 into the rebellion and shit at this point. So, which I'm excited for. I love Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, me too. He's such a great character. By the way, one of the best special effects, like CGI with practical they've ever done in Star Wars. Like K2SO is flawless. Like there's no issue. Like the way the lighting hits him, it's a perfect CGI.
I would agree.
Absolutely. I'm curious to see how they do on a show budget versus movie budget with it. And I hope they do it justice because K2 is definitely a big fan favorite. So
there's nobody famous in the show, so that's why you get practical effects and everything looked so good because all the money goes to the show, similar to Acolyte. But
no lie. So Jimmy, who do you think?
Well, I don't know if it was like a cheap. They were kind of cheating, but I do feel like all of the senators that they show, that Jin says, like rebellions are built on all. I think all of them will be there. So I think Senator Organa's got to show up.
Yeah,
he hasn't been there yet. I think more of Saw's team. I think we'll start getting like specifics. Like I could totally see them taking like a character that's in Rogue One that's only in it for a few seconds and then like making them something in this. I could totally see that happening. Out of the core group though, I don't like of like Jin and stuff. I don't think any of them can show up. Can they? Like I really feel like the ragtag group of them that goes off on the mission. Like I feel like they all meet each other then. So
I agree. I don't think we'll see any of that. The main group there.
Except for maybe the pilot. There could be some like weird cameo.
Yeah.
Because
fucking Bodhi. Yeah, we might see him. I think who we might see more, especially because this is really building the rebellion at this point. And I hope so, because I really loved him in Rogue One, was Antok Merrick, which was Blue Leader.
Oh, me too. Blue Leader, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we see him in there, and I think we probably will. That was a real big fan favorite, especially among Black Series collectors. That was the hardest one
Yeah.
to get for a while there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But I
totally.
do think we'll see him too.
Awesome.
Yeah. I would agree. I think he's got to be in it. I'm trying to think if there was any other like weird random ones.
Well, I love Melshi, and I love that he was in the last
Yes.
season in Prison with Andor. He's a character that's really high up on my list for an action figure, weirdly enough. But yeah.
I definitely see more of him. I think him and Andor definitely have that tight knit shit right there. Especially, I guess when you break out of prison together, that's what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't know who else we might see in there, to tell you the truth. Getting Ben Mendelsohn back for Director Krennic is awesome, though. He killed it.
Might
He was
get Galen
honestly
Erso
like
out
a
of that.
perfect villain for that, I thought.
Yeah.
You might get Galen Erso out of that. I mean, it'd be great to have Mads Mikkelsen go back.
Dude, if we get Mads Mikkelsen back, I'll be
I'm not
happy.
gonna lie. I felt like with Rogue One, I felt like the strongest story was between Galen and Krennic. So I would love to see some Galen Erso because I
definitely feel like we could have seen more of him in there, because honestly, Mads just kills every character he ever does. So I would have loved to have seen more of him.
Could we? Yep. I don't know if it works with the timeline. It would probably have to be a flashback if I remember correctly. But could we potentially see young Jyn Erso? Because she's
maybe. I would love to see her getting traded. Well, she would be. We just need to know when she
broken yet. Still, like when they show him with the
point they're at right now, though, she's probably like with Saw's team. So maybe we get like a small flashback of her in Saw.
It could be her when she's like, younger, because we don't know if this starts like 4 years or 3 years before Rogue One, which is, it's 3 episodes that are 3 years before, 3 episodes that are 2 years, 3 years episodes, or like 4 years, and the last 3 episodes get you to the day before Rogue One. They've already said that. So basically, if it's before she gets captured or Saul leaves her to die or whatever, I think you could absolutely at least see her with that ragtag group when she's younger, even if it's a cameo. And I think that could be really cool.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of that timeline myself, actually.
Yeah, and
each episode is a separate year.
Right.
Each
arc.
They
don't have to use Felicity Jones either, because it would be
she's
like
young.
Middle. So
100%.
But honestly, guys, that I'm super excited for Andor. That's especially
Most
compared
exciting.
to Andor. Yeah, like I think that's one that everybody can agree they're super excited on. That was probably one of the best series to come out from Star Wars ever, in my opinion.
Well,
and I think most people agree.
There was a lot. We don't need to get into it for time, but we can talk about this another day. But there was a lot of people in the fan base that fucking hated Andor and made a huge shit stink about it being too slow and not feeling like Star Wars. So that's just, again, the shit we deal with, that for all of us liking Star Wars.
I said the same thing right after the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. I literally said, "Oh, this is like Andor," because for me, the first 5 episodes of Andor are a little slow for me. They're not bad,
totally fair.
But everybody has to realize TV shows are slower. Most series, except for like Breaking Bad, 90% of them, the pilot is like the worst episode of the series.
Oh no, 100%. It just meant to capture your attention. That's it. That's all it is. 100%.
That's like I've like last night. I felt like I was watching the prison sequence in Andor. That's what I felt.
100%.
We're at the really good stuff. Okay, I am totally invested in this.
You earned it. You earned it. Yeah, 100%, Jim. I'm with you. Yeah, absolutely.
So
good stuff, man.
I would really love to. I don't know how it will work, and I understand why he has to be dead. But Kino Loy showing back up would make me feel
Oh my god, dude! I am an Andy Serkis junkie. Guys, I would lose my mind if he showed back up.
Guys, I can't talk about Kino Loy's death and Jackie's death in the same episode tonight. I'm a human being, guys. I can't.
That's enough depression. Enough depression for one night, guys.
I gotta sleep tonight, boys. I'm already worried about Basil.
Well, honestly, guys, I think that wraps us up for tonight. We've been going for a hot minute now, and we covered a lot. I think we can all agree this episode of The Acolyte was fantastic. Yeah. We are all very excited for the season 2 of Andor coming out. Mm-hmm. Now, that wraps us up. So, we do want to take a quick minute there and just thank all of you guys who have been listening or watching to us. You can follow us on Instagram at Sith Happens _Star Wars podcast. And on our Instagram, you can actually find our link tree, which has links to our YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, everywhere you can listen to our podcast. So please go check that out and follow us on there. And pretty much from there, Matt, do you have any last little quips or anything for the folks at home?
All I've got to say is I want to debunk myself, and I'm going to let Jimmy take us out after that because I always do, and he's a guest. So I'm going to debunk myself like I normally do. 2 podcasts ago, I told I Am Not a Committee, Aunt Boone, that I was going to send him the action figures I haven't sent him in 6 months. There was no money exchange. I just told him I'd give him some action figures. I said it was going to happen, and guess what? I didn't. So I've debunked myself as an asshole still. And with that, I will just say,
I
Jimmy,
could have
you've
told
been
you that.
fantastic. It's been great to have you. My really good friend Ant has been on a couple of these. It's great to meet one of Eric's friends, and thank you. You can do my part of taking us out.
All right, Jimmy. So, why don't you sign us off, brother?
Well, this has been Sith Happens. We've had a great time talking about the Acolyte, and there's so much more to come. So may the Force be with us all.
And I am the Dadalorian. Thank you guys for joining us today. This is the way.